Hello there everyone, I'm Christina of CSLdesigns and today I'm going to show you how to make this twisted Celtic macrame ring. And these are the two that I've made here. So they're the same technique, same basic ring. I've just chosen different colorways really. So one is a bit of a teal color and the other one is a grey. And then I've added in these little copper beads as well to add a bit more interest. And then the ring band looks like this. So you have these nice little twists which are the same that we have in the middle there of the Celtic design that goes all the way around the ring band. So it looks like this. And then the ring looks like this on. So you can see we get this twisted Celtic effect as a feature of the ring. And then the ring band all the way around. And because it's made of cord, it's really nice and comfortable to wear because it kind of just molds to your finger. So these are the rings that I made. Now, I came up with the idea for these rings from a bracelet that I've previously made. That looks like this. You can see we have this same effect and I just thought to use part of that as a ring. So now you can make a set if you want to. I already have a tutorial where I show how to make the bracelet. So if you make it in similar materials, you can always make them to match. But in this tutorial here, I'm going to show you how to make the ring. So if you want to learn, then keep watching. So these are the materials that we're going to need. What I have here first of all is my cord. Now this is a 0.5mm s-lon cord in this lovely teal colour. And then the beads that I'm going to be using for this are these 3mm copper beads. So you can also choose whichever ones you want to. Seed beads would also work really well for this. Or you could even leave the beads out and just focus on the cord. So let's get all the materials ready and let's get started. And then we're going to need some lengths of our cord. So what I have here is 6 lengths of about 80 centimeters each. And then I make sure the cords are even on one end, so I put the ends together and then I go in about 20 centimeters from there and tie a knot to help hold them together, and then know that this is a starting point. So we're going to be using these lengths here. And then we have another 6 lengths of about 40 centimeters and I'm just keeping these loose. So I've then taken the cords here with that knot and put them onto my project macrame board. So it looks like this here, and I'm using these T-pins to help hold it down, and I'm also going to be using them throughout so it makes it easier to work with. And then I just separated the cords out here so I have 3 going out to either side. And then we need to start making some knots here. So I'm just going to pick out a cord from either side, just 2 that are kind of closer to the middle there. And then I'm going to cross my right one here over the left one. That's just what comes natural to me. And then the one that's coming from the left end is going underneath. That's the working cord. So I'm going to make a knot with that, and this is a double half hitch around the holding cord here. And then I tighten this just up right below that knot. And then we need to do it again, so take the working cord around your finger and through the loop. So it loops around that holding cord there. And tighten that. So we now have our first double half hitch. And then I'm going to grab another cord from this left side here, one of the loose ones, and then bring that underneath the holding cord. And again make a double half hitch. So this is now tightening after the first knot, which is just continuing the row basically that we're creating. And whenever I'm tightening the knots here, I'm making sure that I'm holding this holding cord out towards the side, but not straight out like this, about a 45-degree angle, so in this direction here. Then I'm just leaving that for now. I have the 2 working cords here that I used. I want to then take another cord from the right that we haven't used yet, bring that over the 2 working cords, and then basically just repeat now. So I take the very first one, make sure you take the first one first, and then make a double half hitch in the exact same way, and then tighten this, and this is going to get tightened right underneath the first little row that we started doing. So the 2 rows there are nice and tight below each other. Then take the next one and tighten that as well. So we're basically now starting 2 rows here, as you can see. And this is then our starting point. So now from here, what I'm going to be doing is kind of working towards the side, working on one side at a time. So it doesn't matter which one you start with, I'm just going to start with my left one because I'm kind of already working in this direction. So we have the 2 holding cords here. What I'm then going to do is take the final cord that we haven't used yet from that side and bring it underneath the first one, because we now need to continue the rows here going outwards. So we just make another double half hitch around that holding cord, tighten that, just continue the row by holding this holding cord in the same direction the whole time. So that's one. Then you bring it straight underneath the next one and make another double half hitch you can see we're now just continuing the rows of knots here. And then what we need to do is change direction with the same working cord. So all I'm going to do is bring it back underneath the same holding cord. So basically I'm now swapping hands, and then we do the same but just with opposite hands. So make a double half hitch, and still make sure when you tighten this to hold the holding cord in that same direction. So we're still continuing the row out towards the side at an angle there. So another double half hitch, and then bring it straight underneath the next one and do the same thing. So a double half hitch around that one and tighten that, and you can see we're just continuing the row again. But then this working cord has just changed direction, and we now need to do that again because we need to come in towards the middle. So I just bring it straight underneath the same holding cord that I just used. Again, swapping hands, but otherwise making another double half hitch. You can see we're just building it up here. And then underneath the next one, make another double half hitch there as well. And then you're going to be able to see that we have two rows that are going right underneath each other, going out to the side at an angle like this, and we kind of just kept lengthening it. And then we have the working cord here wanting to kind of come in towards the middle. So this is how we're leaving that side for now. Then I'm going to go straight over to the other side and basically do the same thing, but obviously because it's the other side, everything is going to be mirrored. So all you want to do is these two here that we use to make the knots in the middle, they're going to be the two holding cords, and the last one that we haven't used yet, that's going to be the working cord. So we first of all want to bring that loose cord underneath the first holding cord, and then make the first double half hitch, like that. Then bring it underneath the next one straight away. I'm just going to kind of get the other one here out of the way so it doesn't interfere if it wants to stay. And then underneath that next one there to make a double half hitch. Again, so these two rows that we're going to build on this side are going to be right below each other as well. And just like on the other side, now we need to change direction with the same working cord. So I just bring it straight underneath the same holding cord as well. And remember then to hold the holding cord in the same direction still, while tightening the knot. So we're just continuing the rows there, going out to the side, then go underneath the top holding cord, or the outer one, make a double half hitch, so now the working cord here is kind of pointing away from the piece, but we need to come back in towards the middle. So I bring it straight underneath the same holding cord and make another double half hitch around both of them. So we'll bring it straight underneath the next one. So again, we're constantly making sure we have these two rows right next to each other. And then you're going to be able to see that we're basically creating almost a little corner at a 90-degree angle right there as the starting point. So we still have the three cords kind of going out towards each side, and this is the beginning. So now what we need to do is actually attach the other cords, the loose ones that we have. So I'm just going to take one at a time, and we need to attach 3 to either side, and it's the same principle. I'm just going to show you here. I'm going to start on the left side, and then you can kind of get some of the other cords out of the way if you want to make sure they not get tangled up. Then we need to take the outer one of the 2 holding cords, and then I kind of bring it towards one end of my new working cord here, the shorter ones, the loose one, and just leave a little tail obviously just to hold on to here. Then I'll put that underneath that holding cord, and then I take the long end here back over the top of it, and then back underneath, to then come through the loop of itself. So make sure to go through that loop. So you can see here, it loops around that holding cord like this, and then you tighten it. Hold on to it though, because it's not fastened onto the cord yet. But then I do the exact same thing again, so bring the long end over the top, back underneath and through that loop. So you can see it loops around the same cord in the same way, and then we can tighten this which then creates the knot to then attach it so we can let go of it, and then I'm going to push it all the way down to sit right next to the other knots down here. So basically I'm continuing that row of knots, and we just have that short end going out to the side, so that's kind of just put that out of the way. And then straight away I'm going to bring this cord, the working cord, underneath the next holding cord. Make sure to push it all the way up, and then make a double half hitch again with it. That also secures it just more in place, because obviously that means we've got 2 knots instead of just the 1. So that's now attached to 1 cord. So you obviously then want to attach the 3 in total on this side. On the other side we do the exact same thing, but because it's the other side, obviously it's just kind of mirrored, so we're using opposite hands. But again, you just go to the outside cord first of all, and then put the short end underneath, and then bring it back over the top to come back under that cord and through the loop. Tighten that, hold on to it while you then do the second one in the exact same way, and then this creates the knot. So you then pull just at both ends of the cord there and kind of push it together and push it all the way down. So you can see it's the exact same principle. Bring it underneath the next one, and then also make a double half hitch with that. So this is also fully attached now. Just kind of leave those little tails out the way. But then that's how you attached all the cords. So now I've got all the cords attached here. It looks like this. So you can see it looks a little bit more messy now. But if we just kind of keep it organized, so we have the 2 on each side, the holding cords that are going out to the side. So just for now, leave them there. Then what we have is 4 lengths of cord here in the middle, going towards the middle there. They kind of want to naturally cross over each other, but they're each on their own side there. So we can just separate some of them a little bit out, make it a little bit less messy. So the very bottom one, or outer one, however you look at it, that's closest to these holding cords, I'm going to bring out with them. So I'm not going to use that just now. Out to the side there, and the same on the other side as well. So we then end up with 3 cords on either side in the middle there that I wanted to cross over. Now what I also like to do is use these T-pins to kind of help keep cords out of the way. So just bring them out to the side there and then kind of secure them down a bit so they don't keep getting in my way and maybe end up getting tangled up. So something like that makes it a little bit more organized. And while I'm at it as well, because we have a bit of work done now, I can use my T-pins to actually fasten into the piece rather than just through that knot, which holds it better in place so it doesn't keep moving around too much. So I'm just going down basically between the rows of knots just to make sure I don't damage the cord too much. I prefer to do that whenever I can, so not through the knots themselves, but just in between the rows there. And then we need to start working on the middle part first of all. So I'm going to do that first before I then get to the side ones. So again, just start on one side at a time. And then what we also need to do now, if you want to, is add in the bead first of all. So that means I have these 3 cords. I'm starting on my left side. The inner one is the one I want to add my first bead to. So just get right to the end. And then put the bead onto the cord, let it drop all the way down. Just like this. So it's going to end up sitting in this little corner that we're going to make. Then it's the same principle as before, what we're going to be doing. So this one with the bead on is going to be the working cord. So I'll bring that underneath the very next one. So the middle one out of the 3. The other 2 here are the holding cords. So bring it underneath the first holding cord, make a double half hitch. Just like that. And that then also traps that bead in place. Make sure the bead stays in that little corner, so on the outside there. Bring it underneath the next cord, holding cord, and make a double half hitch again. So we're now continuing the same principle of having 2 rows there right next to each other, and then we just need to keep building them. So to do that, I'm going to bring that working cord straight underneath the same holding cord, and what we're doing is we're just making these rows of knots in the natural direction that the cords are going in, the holding cords. So just keep holding them in that direction. Tighten that, and then underneath the next one again to make another double half hitch. And you can gradually see the rows are getting longer and longer. And then underneath again, change direction. To then go straight underneath the next one. And make another double half hitch, and then we can really see as well the kind of corner that's been created for that little bead to sit in. So there we go. That's this side here. So now we just want to do the exact same thing on the other side as well. So you just swap over, take the inner card and add your bead to that first of all, if you're using the beads. And then just let it drop all the way down to sit in that corner, and then bring it underneath the middle cord, which is the first of the holding cords, and just make sure that that bead stays there and it doesn't kind of come back up and want to sit under there, but it actually gets trapped in that corner. And then just start making your knots. So again, like that, make a double half hitch, go underneath the next one. Then what you're going to be able to see is by doing this, these two rows of knots here, on one on either side, they're wanting to now go towards each other, so they're going to actually end up meeting in the middle. Change direction, but hold the holding cords in the same direction as they naturally want to go, underneath the next one. Another double half hitch, before we then change direction one last time here for these rows. So the working cords come back outwards away from the piece. You can slowly see it building up here now to the point where the rows, the ends of the rows almost meet. And the last one here, tighten this. So there we go. And then we can see, so bring them close together. I'm just going to take a pin out. I think it's holding it a bit in place. Something like that. Then, as I'm just overlapping these holding cords, you can see it's going to fit perfectly. Bringing them together, it's going to create another little corner. So basically now we end up with a square or a diamond, however you look at it. And we then actually do need to connect these now as well. So that means now we're going to be using the holding cords to make knots with. So we're only doing that whenever we have kind of a connection point like this. So what I'm going to be doing is taking the two inner cords, so basically the one from either side, they're the ones closest to each other, and then I like to take, just like the beginning, I take my right one over the left one. This is what I do naturally. So that means the right one that's coming over, that's the holding cord. So that means the one that's coming underneath from the left side is the working cord. So we use that to make a double half hitch and tighten that. So basically this is going to be continuing the row from the right of how it looks anyway. So like that. And then I take the next cord from that side, from the left, that's coming underneath as well, and make a knot right after the last one. So that's now continuing the row even more, and it's kind of blocking off the row from the left there, but obviously it's just appearance how it looks. So it's going to look like the right rows there are crossing over the left ones. Then I take the other holding cord from that right side and then just do the same. So take one cord at a time, make a double half hitch, make sure you take the first one first so you don't get them crossed over, and the next one, and then you can really see we have this full little square or diamond, and it's connected those two sides together. So then to continue here in the middle, before we make any more knots, I'm just going to add some more beads as well. So what I'm going to do is take the outside of these middle cords, so we have the 6 ones in the middle, so the outer one of the 3 on one side, and then just add a bead to that one, because that is going to be the working cord on that side, let it drop all the way down, and I'm just going to add the one on the other side straight away as well. You can do that, or you can wait till you go to that side, like that. And then again, I'm just going to work on one side at a time, so I just push the other ones out of the way. So I just start on my left side, doesn't matter which one you start on. But then, like I said, the outer one here with the bead on is the working cord, so we bring that underneath the next one. Both of these other two ones are the holding cords. And now what we also need to do is, while we're making these rows now, we need to add a curve into it. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So first of all, we make a double half hitch with the working cord there, making sure that bead gets trapped in that little corner. So just like that, double half hitch. Then we bring the cord underneath the next one. And then we make a half hitch like that. And then instead of making a double half hitch the same way as the other times, what we need to do is actually change direction straight away instead of doing it after the double half hitch. So I've made one half hitch, so basically one half of it with a double half hitch. Then I bring it underneath and then make the other half, you could say, but it's just in the opposite direction. So that just means we change direction straight away, and then we'll bring it underneath the other one and make a full double half hitch there, like that. So you can see already we're getting a little bit more of a curve into it, but we need to come even further back in towards the middle, so kind of from that crossover point it goes out but then starts to come back in. So we change direction again. So bring the working cord underneath the same holding cord and make a double half hitch. And as we're also doing this, you want to hold the holding cords kind of following the direction that we want the curve to go. So gradually bringing them further and further in as we tighten the knot, and then bring it underneath the next one, and then start your knot. So make the first half, and then in the middle of the knot here, before we do the other half, I'm going to bring it underneath straight away, to then make the other half with opposite hands. So we change direction within the knot instead of after the knot, and then just go underneath the next one and make a full double half hitch. And then you can see we have a nice curve in there. So these two holding cords have started to come back in towards the middle. And then we need to do the same on the other side. So again, it's the same but just mirrored. So the outer one, the one with the bead, is the working cord. So we just take that underneath the next one. Make a double half hitch. Then bring it underneath the inner one to make the first half of the knot. But then before we make the other half, we go underneath straight away, so change direction within the knot to then make the other half and then tighten it. And then go underneath the first one again to make a full double half hitch. So on the outer ones we're changing direction between the knots, but on the inner ones we're doing it within the knots. So like that, change direction again. And you can see as well I'm holding the holding cords gradually more and more back in towards the middle. Go underneath the next one where we change direction within the knot. So do the one half and then bring it back underneath straight away to then do the other half, then back out underneath the outer one to do a full double half hitch, and then tighten them. And then again you can see we're getting a bit of a curve in these rows of knots where they're kind of coming back in towards the middle. So that means these 4 holding cords, 2 from either side, are now more naturally wanting to cross over each other, and we actually also now want to connect them in the exact same way as the other connection points. So again we take the inner cord from either side first of all, the ones that are closer to each other, and then just like the other times I'm bringing my right one over my left one, and then make a double half hitch with the working cord and tighten that nicely like that. Take the other holding cord from that side that now is a working cord. So we're continuing the rows from that's coming from the right there, so just like that. Then we take the other holding cord from that right side and just bring that over the 2 working cords and make a double half hitch with each of them. Because then what we basically get in the middle here is this little twist effect of the rows of knots. So there we go. And then now that we're below this twist in the middle, what we have to do is basically repeat what's just above it. So the straight lines going out to the sides, but again, to replicate that side, I'm going to add my beads first of all, before we make the knots. So again, on the outer ones that are going to end up being the working cords, just add one there, and again I'm just going to add on the other side straight away, just so I don't end up forgetting. So add your bead to that very outer cord and let them both drop down, and always make sure they're going to end up sitting right there in those corners. And then all we're going to do is one side at a time, bring that outer cord with the bead on underneath the next one, make a double half hitch, and now it's just going to be in a straight row, continuing from the direction that they're already coming out in. So like that, underneath the next one here, do a double half hitch, and now change direction. So bring it underneath the same holding cord, and make sure you hold that holding cord in the same direction still, so it becomes a straight line. Like that, underneath the next holding cord, and gradually we're growing the rows again. Double half hitch, and once we have that, change direction one more time, because we need to have these rows equally long as the ones above. So back underneath the same one again, to then do another double half hitch. So we get the working cord here more coming in towards the middle. Double half hitch again, so there we go. That's that one side. And then we just repeat the same on the other side. So take the outer cord with the bead on, bring it underneath the next one to make your first double half hitch. And then you can see these rows that I'm making now, looks like they're going underneath the other ones in the pattern. So again, it's obviously just the way it appears because of how we make the knots. And that's how you get that twist effect in the middle. Double half hitch, change direction, underneath the same holding cord, tighten the knot there. So again, between these two rows that we're doing now, the ones we just did on the other side and these ones, we're going to get about a 90-degree angle. A double half hitch on the outer one, before we then change direction straight away. And just swap hands basically. Make sure to always bring the working cord underneath when you do that. And then in towards the middle again, underneath the next one. And another double half hitch. So now both sides here are in the same position. So now that we reached this point here, you can see we kind of finished the middle section with that little twist. So before we can continue with these middle groups, then what we need to do is bring down the outer ones that we haven't really used yet, we put out of the way. So again, I'm just going to take one side at a time. So I'm just going to release the ones on the left side here, take that pin out, and then I'm just going to use that, to be honest, to just help get the other ones a little bit out of the way while we're working with it. Just gently put them to the other side so I don't keep tangling up with the current cords that I'm using. And then we have these three cords here, which we then need to use to make the rows that's going to also be curving around and actually end up meeting up with this one here on the left side. So you could say we already have the first knot there, because that's a knot that we made when we attached this cord in the first place. So that's kind of already started out that row. So we're just going to continue from that pickup where we kind of left off. So we have this one where we attached, that's the working cord. So you can see that we already made the knots with, and then these two here are the holding cords again. So I'm just going to bring this working cord straight back underneath the first holding cord, so the middle cord out of all of them. And then first of all, we'll continue in the same direction. Go underneath the next one, so the outer holding cord, make a double half hitch, still continuing kind of making that straight line with the rows of knots, like that. Straight underneath again, the same one to change direction, make a double half hitch, working away towards the inside again, and now bring it underneath the inner holding cord, and this is where we now need to change direction within the knot, so add a bit of a curve into it. So I'm going to make the first half first of all, tighten that, and then I'm going to straight away bring it underneath to the opposite side, so basically swap hands, and then make the other half and tighten that, and then bring it straight underneath the next one to then make a full double half hitch, and that then creates that little curvature into the rows. That's then now going to start bringing these rows straight down instead of kind of at an angle to the side. So that's also now how we want to hold the holding cords whenever we're making knots. So straight underneath the same one. So now continue the rows here, because obviously we need to make all the way down to be able to connect up with the one down here. Underneath the next one, make a full double half hitch. So now we're just going to go straight again for a little bit. Tighten that. Underneath the same one to change direction. Make a full double half hitch. Underneath the outer one. Again a full double half hitch before we then change direction to come inwards again. You can see we're building up kind of the straight rows again, coming downwards. Full double half hitch around the inner one. And then change direction again. You can see we're gradually getting further and further down towards these rows down here. Double half hitch around the outer one. To then change direction, come back in towards the middle. Full double half hitch around the outer one here. Bring it underneath the inner one, and now we need to change direction within the knot again. So I make the first half, because you can kind of see it's equivalent to the area that we did in the first end of this row. Then change direction, make the other half, and then do a full double half hitch on the outer one again. Because then what's going to happen here is this is now going to bring the rows kind of inwards, which is going to end up fitting perfectly with the rows of knots down there, so the ends of them, which is then going to give us another connection point. So another double half hitch underneath the inner one to do another double half hitch around that one, because obviously we do need it to be long enough to reach. Bring it underneath again. Let's get the other ones out of the way. Double half hitch, because this is just going to be a straight line again. Because the direction is right, we just need to get the length. Around the outer one as well, a full double half hitch. And then you're going to be able to see that this is now the length that we need, because the ends of these two rows, so the one that we're currently doing, and then this left one of the two middle ones, they're now perfectly meeting up. So we can now make this a connection point. And to do that, I'm going to be using the holding cords again. So I'm just going to grab the two holding cords from the inner rows there. So these two, and then the two from the ones we just made. And then we need to cross these over. Now what I'm going to make sure to do is cross them over so the outer rows here look like they're going over, just to kind of make it a nice frame around it. So that means that they need to cross over the other ones, because then they're going to be the holding cords. So just take the first one first of all, cross over the other two here, and then make double half hitch with that first working cord. You can see that connects in nicely, and then make a double half hitch with the next one. Like that. Then take the next holding cord and bring it back over the other two working cords here, and make the other row of knots continue as well. Double half hitch, and then you can see we have a full connection point again. That's the same as the other ones, obviously just going in a specific direction that we want. And now that we've then done that side there, basically what we're going to do is the exact same thing but on the other side. So we can just put these out of the way. And if you want to, you can use a pin here, just so they're not in the way. And then we need to use the remaining three really that we haven't used in this middle section yet, and it's just doing the exact same thing. So we've already made some knots technically when we attach this cord. That's going to be the working cord, so you just want to repeat this whole thing but just in a mirrored image. So now I made that other side as well there, then we're almost done with this middle part of the ring. We're just missing finishing off this little diamond on this end, the one that we started out with basically, so obviously it completely becomes symmetrical. So what I'm going to do before I make any knots again is add the beads in, because we have the beads on the inner corners there. So that's just adding the beads to the inner cord on either side. That's going to be the working cord. And then I'm just going to start making knots with one side at a time here. Just put the other ones out of the way. So I take the cord with the bead on, bring it underneath the next one, make sure the bead stays in that corner, then start making my double half hitch, bring it underneath the next one. And in this case here we're just going to be making straight lines again, so no need to worry about any curves. A double half hitch, and then change direction within the knot. I'm actually just going to put a pin in these, I think, help hold it down a bit. Change direction, so bring it straight underneath the same cord to come back inwards. Make a double half hitch while holding the holding cord in the same direction as well, underneath the next one. Like this, then change direction again. To come back outwards, away from the piece with the working cord. And you can see we're just building up these rows here, the length of them. So we're going to stop now, because then what we need to do is do the same on the other side, so they're going to end up meeting in the middle there, and we can then connect them. So I'm just going to swap over, get these out of the way so I can go over and work with the other ones. And that's just the same thing again. So the cord with the bead on, or the inner one, bring that underneath the middle one, and then start making your double half hitches, holding now these holding cords also kind of going in towards the middle, just continuing the direction that they're naturally going in. Double half hitch under the next one. Now change direction after this one here, straight underneath the same holding cord. And then go underneath the inner one. So we're making the same amount of knots than we just did on the other side. Change direction. And this is going to be the last time. Like that, go underneath the outer one to make a double half hitch. And there we go. So now, if I just bring the other holding cords back out, you can see that they're going to meet up nicely. And then what we just need to do here is make a connection point. And that's where we just use the holding cords from either side. And then again, I'm going to be bringing my right one. Take the two inner ones, one from either side there. The right one goes over the left one. And then I just make a double half hitch with the left one that's coming underneath. And then use that to tighten the two sides together. Like that. Use the other one that's coming underneath from the left side. Make a double half hitch as well. And then, once you've done that, bring the other holding cord over the two working cords, and then do the same, so a double half hitch with each of them. First one and then the other one, so we basically get a little point down here as well, just like we have in the beginning. So there we go, we now have the whole middle part of the ring done. So now what we're going to do here is make the ring band as well. So obviously we can make it into a complete ring. So I'm just going to take the pin away, because then what we're going to use, I'm just doing one side at a time. We're going to then do this side, I'm going to then take it off, undo that original knot that we made, flip it around, and then also make part of this ring band on the other side and then connect it. But I'm just, like I said, going to start on this side because I've already got it in position. So what we're going to do here to make the ring band is literally just that little middle twist basically. So first of all, you can avoid adding the beads if you want to, obviously completely, but also you can also just add beads in the middle and not on the ring band. But for this one I'm also just going to add them on the ring band just so you can see what that looks like. So I add a bead on the outer cord on either side and let it drop down. And then all we're going to do is do the same technique as we did to make that very middle twist. So we just, on one side, bring that outer cord with the bead on underneath. The next one, make a double half hitch. Bring it underneath the inner one. Then make the first half of the double half hitch. And then change direction within the knot here. So straight underneath there, make the other half and then go underneath the outer one again. And make a full double half hitch. And always making sure as much as possible that the rows that we're making alongside each other along the way are always as close to each other as we possibly can make them. So ideally not really a gap between them, to get it all nice and even. So a double half hitch on the outer one again after changing direction. On the inner one, do the first half, change direction within the knot, so we get this kind of instant curve. The other half, and then underneath the outer one to do another double half hitch, a full one. Like that, so that's the one side. And on the other side we do the same. So the outer cord, the one with the bead in my case, I bring underneath the next one. And make a double half hitch. Bring it underneath the inner one. And then straight away we change in direction within the knot. So that means I make the first half, bring it underneath straight away. And then make the other half and then tighten that. And then make a full double half hitch on the outer one. Then change direction after the full knot. Make a full one on the outer one again. And then the inner one, go underneath that, and then make the first half and change direction straight away. Again, so we get that instant curve just like on the other side. And then make a full one on the outside again. And then that's how we achieve that curve to the rows. We can then obviously ultimately then achieve this look of that kind of twist effect that we get. So then we need to connect them, and that's again in the exact same way. And now I'm going to keep it consistent to make sure it's going to end up looking like a twist. So we just want to make sure we do it the same way as the other times. Just going to get this out of the way a little bit. That means basically just do the same as we did right above it. So I'm going to take the two inner ones, one from each side of the holding cords here. The right one crosses over the left one, and then I make a double half hitch with that working cord that's coming underneath, which then connects these two together and also really emphasizes that twist effect. The next one that's coming underneath, a double half hitch, and then the other holding cord from that right side, I also cross that over. So we can then make a double half hitch with each of the working cords around that one. Just like that. And the last one. and then we've completed the connection point after this little twist. So there you go, it now looks like this. And then you just want to repeat this again now to continue the ring band. And obviously if you're adding the beads, you add them to the outer ones first of all before you start any knots, and then you can just make this same twist again. And then you basically want to make as many twists as you need on both sides to be able to reach around your finger, so it's going to be the right size for you. So I've now made the length that I need for my ring band here, and what I actually recommend that you do is measure this as you go. So you can just make a couple of twists on either side and then take it off your board and then measure it against either your finger or your ring mandrel to see if you need to make any more of those twists. Because what you then need to do is keep making twists here until the two ends meet up comfortably with each other like that. So the point of either side, they meet up, because then obviously we're going to connect them together. So you just want to keep making the lengths until that's the case. And then what you can see here is I've ended up making 2 twists on the one side and 3 on the other one. So it doesn't have to be the same amount on both sides. It doesn't have to be even. It all depends really on the size that you need. Now what I have found is for about an average size end ring, I found that making these 2 twists on either side will work quite well. But then to get my size here, I've just made an extra one. So really just measure it against your finger. So then to connect the ends together so we can get a complete ring band, what I've done is I've kind of just flipped it around to the back here and I've brought the 2 ends together. So obviously making sure the front of the piece is facing outward. And then what we need to do is actually use some of the cords here to connect it again with some more knots. So what you want to just look at is bring the 2 points right opposite each other. So point to point like that, and then we want to use the 2 cords on either end that are right by the points. So on this end here, we're using these 2 cords, and on this end, we're using these 2 cords here. So just going to kind of do one side at a time. So this can be a little bit fiddly because obviously it's loose and it's going to kind of want to move all over the place, but just keep hold of it the best you can. So this one here, that's coming from the point on the bottom one, I bring that over the cords on the opposite point, and then I'm going to take that first cord on the opposite point on the same side, and we need to make a double half hitch with this around the one that goes over. The one that goes over is the holding cord. So like I said, it can be a bit fiddly, but just do the best you can. Bring it around over the top and then back underneath to come through the loop. So it's just like a regular double half hitch that we're doing. So if I kind of hold the holding cord a little bit more out straight, you can be able to see that this working cord now is looping around. Let me just loosen it up a little bit. The holding cord in the way that the double half hitch would. Obviously this is just the first half of the double half hitch. You need to make the other half to tighten it. So you can pull this tight and see that brings the 2 ends together as well. But just doing this half isn't going to keep it in place. So we need to make the other half. Just bring the same cord around the same holding cord once more for the other half of the double half hitch. Now before I tighten this other half, I always retighten the first half, because usually it will kind of come apart a little bit. And then I put my fingers onto it before I then tighten the other half. Just lost grip there. So always make sure to tighten that first half first so we can get a nice and tight complete knot. And then you want to pull it nice and tight there. So you can see we'll kind of continue the row that's coming from the last twist, but the knots that we've made are sitting nice and close to the row on the opposite end. So like that, that's one side. Now I'm going to flip it around to the other side and just basically do the exact same thing. So pick out the very inner cord closest to the tip. So the one from the bottom here, the way I'm looking at it, is crossing over the other one. And then the first cord on the opposite end, I'm going to make a double half hitch with. So again, just bring that around the holding cord, back underneath, and now it's much easier because it's already kind of fastened in place from the other knot. So we can just tighten that first half, do the other half of the double half hitch, and then it's much easier to tighten that. So there we go. That's now connected those two sides together. So we have a little connection point here, but it's still pretty seamless. But obviously that's always going to be really worn at the back of your hand there. So that's what it looks like. So all that's left to do now is get rid of all the excess cards. Now what you're going to find here as well is that some of the ends here have got different lengths left. So some of them are short and some of them are a bit longer. Now that's because the ones that are short are the ones that have been used mainly as working cards because they get used up more, whereas the longer ones were mainly the holding cards. But otherwise, to get rid of them here, it's the same thing with all of them. So I'm just going to show you in one little area where you can see. To kind of try and get the other ones out of the way. Now I'm using a synthetic card so I can use a lighter to singe the ends down. If you're using a natural card, you're going to have to use glue. So you just put glue around where they're coming out from and cut off the excess. But what I'm going to do is cut them down first, but leaving just about 1 millimeter or 2. So I'm just doing these 3 here. And something like that. And then I'm going to take my lighter. Now obviously be careful because this is a naked flame and it does get hot. But I'm then going to turn that on and then just singe down those tiny little ends that are left. Basically melt them. And then I'm just going to press in against the side. And that gets rid of the excess cord. So it seals them off nicely. And kind of gets rid of them. But also it seals them in place. So these knots and where the cords are coming out from, they're not going to come undone in any way. So that makes it nice and secure and also pretty seamless. So obviously you also want to make sure the reason why I push it in is so it's going to be comfortable to wear against the skin there. So you just want to finish all of the cords off in this same way. So now that I got rid of all the excess cords, this is what my ring looks like. So you can see we have this kind of twisted Celtic design at the front as a feature part, and then the ring band going all the way around. And it looks a little something like this on. And obviously because it's cord, it's nice and comfortable to wear because it really just kind of molds to your finger. So it sits nicely. So this is the one that I showed you how to make. And this is the other version that I've already made. So just a different colorway really, the grey cord instead of that teal color. And this one I just didn't add beads to the ring band just to show you the kind of different effect that you can get. So that's how you make the ring to kind of match the original bracelet that I made. It looks like that, so you can see them match really nicely together if you want to make a set with them, and obviously use similar materials. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Feel free to check out my channel. I have loads of tutorials, especially for macrame as well, and for micro macrame. I do really enjoy doing that myself, so feel free to check that out. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this one, and I'll see you in the next one.